Welcome to the journey of breaking the habit of being yourself. What if you could completely rewire your mind and step into a version of yourself you've only dreamed of becoming and reshape your reality? What if your thoughts weren't just things that happen in your head, but powerful forces shaping your body, your behavior, and ultimately your reality? Today, we dive into Dr. Joe Dispenza's Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Dr. Joe Dispenza is a pioneer in bridging science and spirituality, someone who speaks to both the heart and the intellect. With a background in neuroscience, epigenetics, and quantum physics, his work explores how the power of thought, elevated emotion, and focused intention can lead to profound transformation. He's not just interested in theories, he's dedicated to showing people how to create measurable change in their lives. In this magnificent book, Dr. Joe explores a journey that is both deeply personal and universally human. It's a step-by-step process of unlearning the old, limited self and remembering the deeper truth of who you really are. This book offers a map, one that leads beyond survival and into the realm of coherence, healing, and creation. So let's dive in. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza, summarized by Wisdom Matrix 1111. Chapter 1. The Quantum You. Dr. Joe explores the very nature of reality itself. He introduces the idea that you are not simply a victim of your genes, your circumstances, or your past. Instead, you are a creator, living in a universe governed not just by Newtonian physics, but by the strange and empowering principles of quantum physics. In the Newtonian view, everything is predictable, mechanical, and material. Cause and effect rule the day. You need to do something to get something, and it all takes time. But in the quantum model, energy and consciousness take center stage. Your thoughts can affect outcomes. Possibilities exist all at once, and time isn't necessarily linear. In this model, you can cause an effect just by changing your internal state, your thoughts, your emotions, and your energy. As Dr. Joe states, your personality creates your personal reality, and your personality is made up of how you think, how you act, and how you feel. So if you want to change your life, your reality, you have to start by changing yourself from within. Every time you think a thought, you're making a chemical, and the body begins to feel a certain way. Over time, you get used to these patterns, and they become your identity. But just because that's been your reality doesn't mean it has to stay that way. In fact, quantum physics shows us that matter is not as solid as it seems. At the subatomic level, particles behave more like waves, existing in a state of potential until observed. This is called the observer effect, where the act of observing something actually changes its outcome. Dr. Joe ties this to the power of consciousness. When you focus your attention and intention, you collapse infinite possibilities into one reality. Where you direct your attention is where you place your energy. Thus, consequentially, you affect matter or the material world, which primarily consists of energy. So if the quantum field holds all potentials, and your attention chooses which one becomes real, then your mind is more powerful than you've been led to believe. If you want to change some aspect of your reality, you have to think, feel, and act in new ways. You have to be different in terms of your responses to experiences. You have to become someone else. You must create a new state of mind. You need to observe a new outcome with that new mind. Remember, you are not a victim of life. You are a powerful observer and creator of your reality. Your thoughts and feelings create your reality. By changing your thoughts and feelings, you create a new reality. Your inner world shapes your outer world. Chapter 2. Overcoming your environment. Most people live their lives as if their outer world controls their inner world. Your environment, your home, job, finances, health, and even your daily routine becomes the blueprint for how you think, feel, and behave. And without realizing it, many of us get stuck in a loop of living by the same cues, responding to the same conditions, and replaying the same emotional patterns day after day. Dr. Dispenza explains that when you wake up and immediately focus on everything you can see and touch, your phone, your room, your responsibilities, you are already activating memories of the past. You start thinking the same thoughts, which lead to the same feelings, which drive the same behaviors. Before long, you're living a predictable life on autopilot, anchored to your environment. But here's the liberating insight. If your environment is shaping your mind, then you're living in reaction. But if your mind can shape your environment, you're living by creation. This means learning to disconnect from the constant noise and distractions of the external world and turning inward. When you close your eyes, silence the phone, and begin to focus on your thoughts and feelings, you're taking the first steps to free yourself from environmental programming. Dr. Joe uses the example of people who try to change their lives. Maybe they move to a new place or start a new job, but within weeks or months, they find themselves repeating the same patterns. Why? Because they took the same mind with them. The environment changed, but their inner world remained the same. True change comes when you no longer allow your outer world to dictate who you are. You consciously decide who you want to be, regardless of your current conditions. Instead of waiting for something outside of you to change how you feel inside, you start generating the feelings and thoughts of your desired future now. Change your brain by reprogramming your mind through mental rehearsal, regularly imagining yourself performing an action as if the event had actually happened in your external reality. To change your life, you have to break the habit of being defined by your surroundings. You must become greater than your environment. Overcome your environment by becoming conscious of your unconscious thoughts. When you notice your automatic patterns, you stop letting the outside world control your inner state. Break free from emotional addictions to the familiar and commit to the unseen reality within you that you are in the process of creating. Chapter 3. Overcoming your body. The mechanics of transformation come into focus as we explore how the body has become the unconscious mind and why true change requires breaking that pattern. Dr. Joe explains that thoughts create chemical reactions, and those reactions produce feelings. When you think the same thoughts repeatedly, you feel the same emotions, and over time, those feelings become memorized in your body. In fact, most people are not consciously thinking their way through the day, they're simply feeling their way through it, based on emotional habits programmed into their body. Your body stores and repeats old emotional programs, and those patterns must shift if you want to create a new future. By the time you're in your mid-30s, your body has become a subconscious mind, running nearly 95% of who you are. You might say, I want to be happy, or I'm ready to change. But if your body is still addicted to stress, worry, guilt, or anger, then it's going to resist your mental intentions. The body craves what it knows, and what it knows is the past. Dr. Dispenza describes this as being trapped in a loop where your body leads your mind instead of your mind leading your body. You wake up and feel anxious, and then your mind starts searching for a reason to justify that feeling, pulling up memories that match. That's how the past keeps recreating itself, emotionally and chemically, in the present moment. If you want to break free, you have to do something radical. Take your attention off your body. Disidentify from the emotions it has memorized. Teach it to obey a new mind. To break the habit of being yourself, you have to be greater than the feelings that you have memorized in your body. This is no small task. When you begin this process, your body will protest. It will say, this feels uncomfortable, or this isn't normal. And that's exactly the point. You're stepping into the unknown, away from the familiar self. The body has been conditioned to a certain identity, and it wants to return to that. So when you decide to meditate or visualize a new future, you may feel restless, itchy, emotional, or even afraid. But that's the body fighting to stay in control. Your job is to stay conscious in the face of this resistance. The goal is to reach a state where your will is stronger than your program, where you no longer think, feel, and act in the same ways you always have. When you do this, you're no longer the same person, you're no longer the old self, you're liberating yourself from the past. One thought, one feeling, and one habit at a time. Remember, you are not your body. You are not your emotions. You are not your habits. You are consciousness with the power to recondition your body to a new mind. Next, Chapter 4. Overcoming Time. One of the most deeply rooted illusions we live by is the belief that time is linear, rigid, and ultimately in control of our lives. Most people wake up each day and recreate their past. They begin by remembering who they are, their problems, their job, their identity, their emotional history. In doing so, they automatically place themselves in a familiar time loop, a mental and emotional pattern rooted in the past, which unconsciously projects into the future. In this state of being, your future becomes nothing more than a repetition of the past. And this is what Dr. Joe calls living in the predictable known, a cycle where your body, your environment, and time itself define your reality. To change your life, you must break free not just from your body and environment, but also from your psychological concept of time. Time, as we know it, is a human construct, something our brains use to organize experiences. But in the quantum model of reality, all possibilities exist simultaneously in the eternal present moment. The future you want, the healed, abundant, joyful version of you already exists in the quantum field. The only way to access it is to step out of linear time and into the now. Dr. Joe emphasizes that true creation happens in the present moment. When you are fully present, not thinking about the past or worrying about the future, you are no longer that old personality anchored to time. In that moment of pure awareness, you become nobody, no one, no thing, nowhere, in no time, and it is exactly there that the magic begins. When you meditate and truly go beyond your body, environment, and identity, you begin to enter the timeless, dimensionless field where all possibilities exist. You tap into a realm where you are no longer bound by who you've been. In this space, your intentions carry more power because they're no longer being filtered through past beliefs and limitations. Rehearse your new future in this timeless place, emotionally, mentally, energetically, and allow it to feel more real than your familiar past. When done consistently, the brain begins to rewire, the body begins to respond, and the energy of your being begins to match a new destiny. In essence, you don't have to wait for time to change your reality. Instead, you can change your energy, and time will yield to your new vibration. Overcoming time means no longer saying, maybe next year, or one day I'll be happy. It means claiming that your future starts now and aligning your thoughts and feelings with the person you are becoming, not the person you've been. Chapter 5. Survival versus Creation. Dr. Joe Dispenza introduces two very different states of being, survival and creation, and explains how living in one or the other determines the course of your life. Let's begin with survival mode. This is the familiar hardwired state where your body is on high alert, where fear, stress, anxiety, worry, anger, and control dominate your inner world. In this state, the body activates its fight-or-flight response. Stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol flood your system, sharpening your senses, speeding up your heart rate, and preparing you to either run or defend. This response was designed to help us survive short-term dangers, like a predator in the wild. But in modern life, most people live in this heightened state chronically, triggered not by life-threatening dangers, but by traffic, deadlines, arguments, financial worries, or emotional pain. The problem is, when you're constantly in survival, you cannot create. In survival, your energy is focused outward, on controlling and reacting to your environment. Your attention is scattered, your mind is consumed by problems, and you're emotionally attached to past experiences or future fears. In contrast, the state of creation is entirely different. Creation begins when you turn your attention inward, when you calm the mind and body, and when you align with elevated emotions like love, joy, gratitude, and inspiration. These emotions don't come from surviving, they come from a sense of wholeness. In creation mode, you're not reacting to your environment, you're consciously generating your inner world. You're no longer trying to change your reality by force, manipulation, or fear. Instead, you are changing your energy and letting that energy attract new experiences to match it. Dr. Joe explains that when you begin your day in a state of survival, you're already preparing to relive the past. But when you begin your day in a state of creation, you're stepping into a new future. The body begins to believe emotionally that the future you're imagining is already happening, and this signals the brain to fire new neural patterns, ones that align with who you are becoming, not who you've been. Ultimately, you must move out of survival to enter creation. You must let go of stress and fear to make room for coherence and flow. When you shift from fear-based living to love-based creating, you start to tune into a higher frequency, one that connects you to the quantum field of infinite possibilities. And in that space, your thoughts and feelings become magnetic, drawing to you the people, opportunities, and outcomes that match your elevated state. Chapter 6. 3 Brains. Thinking to Doing to Being. Dr. Joe introduces a simple but profound model for personal transformation, one that involves the 3 brains we all have: the neocortex, the limbic brain, and the cerebellum. Together, they help us go from thinking to doing to being, the process by which real and lasting change occurs. Let's break it down. 1. Thinking. The neocortex, the intellectual brain. This is the newest part of the human brain and the seat of your conscious awareness. It's where you learn new information, analyze, reason, and imagine. When you read a book, hear an inspiring idea, or contemplate a new possibility, this is your neocortex at work. This is the first step of change. You have to know what you want and learn how to become it. 2. Doing. The limbic brain. The emotional brain. Once you've intellectually understood something, the next step is to apply it. As you begin practicing a new way of thinking or behaving, your limbic brain starts to associate those actions with emotions. For example, if you begin meditating daily and you feel peaceful, empowered, or inspired, your body begins to feel what the mind has learned. You're now emotionally engaging with your new self. You're moving from knowing to doing, from philosophy to experience. 3. Being. The cerebellum. The subconscious or habitual brain. The final step is repetition, doing it so often that it becomes second nature. Over time, with consistent practice, your new thoughts, actions, and feelings become automatic. They're no longer something you try to do, they become who you are. This is when transformation is complete. You're no longer practicing the new self, you are the new self. Dr. Joe explains that most people never reach this level of being because they stay stuck in the first or second stages. They might think about change or even try to act differently, but they don't follow through long enough for it to become embodied. That's why change often feels temporary or difficult. It hasn't yet reached the level of identity. But once you align your thinking, your doing, and your feeling, and you do it consistently, your brain begins to wire a new internal map. Your body learns what your mind knows, and your renewed state of being reflects your future, not your past. The ultimate goal is to embody a new personality, one where your old thoughts and feelings no longer define you, and where your new energy begins to magnetize a new personal reality. Remember, your personality creates your personal reality. Moving on to Chapter 7, The Gap. You've learned the science. You've begun to understand your thoughts, emotions, and habits. You know that transformation requires moving beyond your environment, your body, and time. But here's the thing. There's always a moment, sometimes painful, sometimes confusing, when you are no longer who you used to be, but not yet who you're becoming. That's the gap. Dr. Joe Dispenza calls it the gap, the space between the old self and the new self, the familiar past and the unpredictable future. In this space, your identity feels uncertain. You've let go of the thoughts, emotions, and behaviors that kept you stuck, but the new self hasn't fully formed yet. You might feel like you're in between versions of yourself, and it can be uncomfortable. That's why most people rush back to the familiar, even if that means returning to stress, doubt, or limitation. The challenge is that your old self is built on predictable emotions and familiar patterns, and those patterns are addicted to a certain identity, even if it no longer serves you. You become addicted to a life you don't even like. So when you begin to step away from it, your body protests. Your inner dialogue may sound like, "This feels wrong. I don't know who I am anymore. Nothing's happening. I should just give up." But this is the precise moment where change is possible if you don't retreat. So stay conscious in the discomfort of the unknown, because the unknown is the only place where the new can emerge. It's in the unknown that your mind, body, and energy can reorganize in a completely new way, one not based on the past, but aligned with your desired future. You must become comfortable with uncertainty, with being no one, going nowhere, doing nothing, because that's where you are most powerful, that's where you're free, that's where the quantum field responds. Trust the process. Don't rush it. Don't fill the gap with old habits or distractions. Instead, sit in it, breathe through it, and allow the new self to be born through intention, repetition, and surrender. Chapter 8, Meditation, Demystifying the Mystical and Waves of Your Future. Dr. Dispenza begins to bridge the gap between science and the mystical and introduces meditation not just as a relaxation technique, but as the gateway to personal change, quantum possibilities, and the future you desire. Mystical experiences are not reserved just for saints, monks, or special people. In truth, mystical moments, deep insight, emotional healing, mental clarity, and spiritual awakening are available to anyone who knows how to tune into the right state of being. That tuning begins with meditation. Dr. Joe explains that when you close your eyes and begin to focus inward, away from your senses, away from your environment, and away from your body, you begin to enter the unknown, the quantum field of infinite possibilities. This is where the magic begins. Through meditation, you're training your mind and body to get beyond the analytical thinking brain. As your brainwaves begin to slow from beta, normal waking consciousness, to alpha, relaxed focus, and then into theta, deep meditative state, you cross into a state of pure suggestibility, where the subconscious becomes accessible and your energy becomes fluid, able to shift, reshape, and align with your highest intentions. In other words, this is where you can reprogram yourself. The brain is like an antenna, and different brainwave states tune you into different frequencies. In high-stress beta waves, you're tuned into the survival, problem-focused broadcast. But in slower waves, especially theta, you begin to tune into higher consciousness, greater intelligence, and even the electromagnetic field of your future self. Here, you begin to influence matter, not through force, but through coherence, alignment, and elevated emotion. This chapter also touches on the idea that the future exists as a wave of infinite potential in the quantum field, not yet solid, but full of possibility. When you meditate and align your thoughts and feelings with the reality you want, as if it's already happening, you begin to collapse those possibilities into a new outcome. You become the observer that gives form to the formless. Dr. Joe states, "You can't enter the quantum field with survival emotions like fear, lack, frustration, or control. These lower frequencies only reinforce your past. To truly create, you must bring elevated emotions: gratitude, joy, love, freedom, inspiration, because these are the signatures of the future." In essence, meditation is the tool that allows you to step out of the old self and into the field of change, where you can literally draw your desired reality to you. This is the turning point. You're no longer just preparing, you're beginning the process of becoming through focused attention, emotional elevation, and energetic alignment. Chapter 9, The Meditative Process, Introduction and Preparation. You've learned the science behind transformation, the power of thought and emotion, and the mysteries of the quantum field. Now, it's time to begin the real work through meditation. But before diving into the weekly practices, Dr. Joe offers something vital: preparation. He emphasizes that meditation is not about getting something. It's about letting go of your identity, your environment, your body and time. It's about becoming no one, going nowhere, doing nothing, so you can access the field of infinite possibilities and change your internal state in the process. The goal isn't to fix yourself. The goal is to become so present, so open, and so coherent in mind and heart that your energy begins to match the future you desire. Approach meditation as a process of unlearning. You've memorized thoughts, behaviors, and emotions that are keeping you tied to the past. Now you will begin to break the habit of being yourself by disconnecting from those programs and reconnecting with your true self, the one that exists beyond your identity. Dr. Joe outlines 5 steps of preparation that form the foundation for effective meditation. 1. Inducing the present moment. Before transformation can happen, you must be fully present. That means shifting attention away from your senses, your to-do list, and your outer world. By closing your eyes and focusing on your breath or internal awareness, you begin to pull your energy back from the external world and into the now. 2. Changing your energy. You're not trying to solve problems or revisit old stories. You're trying to change your energetic state. That means letting go of lower emotions like fear, frustration, or lack, and beginning to elevate your emotional state even before anything in your outer world changes. 3. Rehearsing the new you. You'll begin imagining mentally and emotionally who you want to become. Not just what you want, but how it feels to be that version of yourself. This mental rehearsal begins to install new circuits in the brain and teach the body what it feels like to live that future in the present moment. 4. Surrendering to the unknown. You must be willing to step into the unknown, where you're no longer controlling, predicting, or analyzing. This is where creation happens. You're not trying to force a result. You're allowing it to unfold through focused intention, elevated emotion, and trust. 5. Making the process sacred. This isn't a mechanical task or a daily routine to check off. Meditation is a sacred practice, a meeting between you and the field of infinite intelligence. The more heartfelt your participation, the more profound the transformation. Ultimately, change won't happen overnight, but if you commit to the process, something extraordinary can unfold. Remember, you are not doomed by your genes or hardwired to be a certain way for the rest of your life. You are quite literally capable of becoming someone new, healing yourself, and creating the reality you truly desire. Chapter 10. Open the door to your creative state. Week 1. This chapter begins your first week of active transformation. After preparing your mind and understanding the science, it's now time to practice change from the inside out. Dr. Joe Dispenza calls this week's practice opening the door to your creative state. The goal this week is simple but profound. Become familiar with the unconscious self so you can begin to dismantle it. You start by observing your old thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, the ones that make up the old you. These are the automatic programs that keep you trapped in the past, reacting the same way, thinking the same things, and living on autopilot. You're not trying to change them yet. You're learning to watch them without judgment, without analysis, without guilt. Just observe them. Dispenza refers to this as becoming conscious of your unconscious self. It's the first real step toward freedom, because you can't change what you're not aware of. The meditation you'll practice during this first week is designed to help you. 1. Disconnect from your environment, body, and time. 2. Become aware of the automatic programs that run your life. 3. Observe your thoughts, emotional reactions, and habits. 4. Decide what no longer belongs in your future self. Dr. Joe recommends sitting quietly, closing your eyes, and breathing deeply, relaxing into the present moment. Then begin to watch your thoughts. Don't engage with them. Don't resist them. Just notice what keeps coming up. You may observe things like, I'm not good enough. I have to control everything. I'll never be happy. These thoughts have defined your personality, and they don't belong in your future. You'll also begin to recognize emotions you live by, like resentment, guilt, fear, anxiety, or frustration. These emotions are addictive, and your body has memorized them. Your task is to identify them and make a decision. This no longer belongs in the mind and body of my future self. This process of mental and emotional pruning is incredibly powerful. You're not just learning new things, you're unlearning the old self. Dr. Joe emphasizes that this week is not about creating the new self yet. It's about clearing space. Just as you can't decorate a room until you've removed the clutter, you can't install a new personality until you've unmemorized the old one. This week's practice will help you break the habit of being yourself, the self you no longer want to be, and create a clean inner slate ready for transformation. So each day, as you sit in meditation, you become a gentle observer. You watch the patterns of thought, the emotional addictions, the behaviors you've been rehearsing for years, and you let them go. You're not your thoughts, you're not your habits, you're not even your emotions. You are the awareness behind them, and that awareness has the power to choose something new. Next, Chapter 11. Prune away the habit of being yourself. Week 2. After spending Week 1 observing the unconscious thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that make up the old self, Week 2 is about taking action, beginning to break the energetic and emotional ties that have kept you stuck in the past. Dr. Joe Dispenza calls this week's focus pruning away the habit of being yourself. It means that every time you catch yourself thinking an old thought, reacting with an old emotion, or slipping into a behavior that belongs to the past, you interrupt the pattern. You stop being that version of yourself. Your brain is like a dense network of neural connections. Every thought you repeat fires the same circuits, and the more they fire, the more wired they become. Over time, these thoughts become hardwired, turning into beliefs, attitudes, and personality traits. But here's the good news. What's wired can be unwired. What's memorized can be unmemorized. This week, you actively begin to disassemble the old self. The moment you catch yourself thinking a limiting thought like, I can't do this or I'm not enough, you stop. You remind yourself, that's the old me and I'm no longer that person. The moment you feel yourself sinking into anxiety, blame, or guilt, you notice it, and you choose not to follow it. In doing so, you're literally pruning synaptic connections in the brain and sending new signals to your body. This week's meditation goes deeper than observation. Now, you're actively working to break emotional bonds with the old personality. You begin your session the same way, sitting quietly, relaxing the body, and becoming present. But now you go further. You consciously review the thoughts, feelings, and behaviors you want to change. You might even say to yourself in meditation, "I'm no longer the person who lives in fear. I release the belief that I'm unworthy. I let go of the habit of controlling everything. Bring these habits into the light of awareness and then mentally and emotionally disconnect from them." The more emotional energy you remove from the old self, the more power you reclaim. Each time you refuse to feed an old thought or emotion, you're pulling your energy away from the past and redirecting it toward building new possibilities. In essence, this week is about unbecoming, letting go, cleansing the emotional and mental residue of the old you piece by piece. Determine what is presently not working in your mind by identifying the root problem to gain power over it. Allow yourself to acknowledge your past self and mistakes, and be honest with yourself about why you want to change your life. Then surrender. Let go in your mind, yield to a greater power, and allow it to dissolve your limitations and mental blocks. As Dr. Joe says beautifully, every time you overcome your old self, you get closer to your future. And so, the work continues, gently, consistently. You're still not building the new self yet. You're making space. You're learning to say no to the automatic self, so you can soon say yes to the elevated self. Each day you show up, you sit down, you enter the present moment, you prune the branches of the old personality. And with every meditation you are remembering you're no longer that person, you're becoming someone new. Chapter 12. Dismantle the Memory of the Old You, Week 3. Now that you've spent 2 weeks observing and pruning the old self, this week is about going even deeper. Begin dismantling the emotional and energetic structure of the past, the very identity you've worn for years. Dr. Joe explains that by the time most of us reach adulthood, we've created a self out of memories, from pain, regret, trauma, success, relationships, failures, and stories. These memories shape how we think, how we feel, how we act, and ultimately how we live. But remember, the past only lives in you because you keep emotionally reliving it. Every time you recall a hurt, replay a disappointment, or carry a grudge, your body re-experiences the same emotions. You're not just remembering, you're re-feeling, and in doing so, you're reinforcing the old identity. So in week 3, your mission is clear. Dismantle the emotional ties that keep your past alive, so you can set yourself free. This week's meditative work goes beyond observing or interrupting patterns. Now you begin to break off your energetic connection to the emotions, events, and people of your past that no longer serve who you want to become. In your meditation, you continue entering the present moment, breathing deeply and centering yourself beyond body, environment, and time. Then you start identifying the emotional memories you've been addicted to, whether it's shame, betrayal, resentment, sadness, or fear, and you consciously begin to release them. You might affirm internally, "I'm no longer defined by that experience. That emotion does not belong in my future. I break the energetic bond with that version of myself." It's not about denying your past. It's about removing the emotional charge you've attached to it. When you stop feeling the same way about the same experiences, those memories lose their power to control you. Dr. Joe explains that your old self is like a record stuck on repeat. It's wired into your brain and stored in your body, but when you stop playing that tune, when you no longer think and feel the same way, the signal weakens, and the structure begins to collapse. You're dismantling the very foundation of your past identity. Prevent your mind from slipping into unconscious patterns by deliberately breaking away from your old familiar way of being. This might stir up discomfort. You may feel empty or uncertain, but that's a good sign. You're in the creative void, the fertile unknown, where your new self is about to emerge. If you're no longer thinking the same way, acting the same way, and feeling the same way, you're no longer being the same person. That's transformation in real time. So, every time you let go of an old emotional state, you reclaim your energy. Energy that was trapped in the past is now available for the future. You're no longer leaking power to old stories. You're reclaiming your wholeness and moving toward the unknown, guided by clarity of purpose and a sense of freedom. Moving on to Chapter 13, Create a New Mind for Your New Future, Week 4. After 3 weeks of observing, pruning, and dismantling the old self, you've made space in your mind, in your body, and in your energy. And now, it's time to begin the most empowering work of all, creating a new mind for your new future. In this 4th and final week of the process, the focus is on consciously and emotionally installing the version of yourself you want to become, not just in theory, but in felt, lived reality. You're no longer undoing the old self, you're now rehearsing and embodying the new. The brain doesn't know the difference between a real experience and one that is vividly imagined with emotion. That means when you mentally and emotionally rehearse being your future self, you're literally rewiring your brain to reflect that reality. So, get very clear. Who do you want to be? What kind of thoughts would that version of you think? How would you act? How would it feel to walk through your day as that person? The more clearly and emotionally you imagine this new self, the more your brain begins to install it as reality. You're forming new neural pathways, you're training your body to memorize new elevated feelings, and you're telling the quantum field, this is who I am now, bring me the experiences that match it. Reinvent your new identity from ideal role models, and then mentally rehearse to establish this new self. This week's meditation is focused on combining clear intention with elevated emotion. That's the formula for change. You choose the thoughts and images that reflect your desired self, then generate the emotions that go with them. Gratitude for a future that's already on its way. Joy for the healing or abundance that's unfolding. Love for the version of yourself that's finally breaking free. Inspiration for the life you're now creating. This emotional state is the signal you broadcast into the quantum field. And according to the law of resonance, that field responds in kind. The key is to feel it as if it's already done. Just as you were once deeply familiar with the old self, now your job is to become intimately familiar with the new self, so much so that it feels natural. You rehearse it, you feel it, you expect it, until eventually you're not trying to be this person anymore. You are this person. Dr. Joe Dispenza states, to be empowered, to be free, to be unlimited, to be creative, to be genius, to be divine, that is who you are. Once you feel this way, memorize this feeling, remember this feeling, this is who you really are. Each day as you sit in meditation, you no longer spend your energy fighting the past. You're now investing your energy in the future, and the body begins to believe it's already there. Remember, this is not a one-time fix. This is the work of repetition, of commitment, of showing up to your inner world until your outer world can't help but reflect it. You're becoming someone new, not by force, but by intention. Not by effort, but by alignment. Not through reaction, but through deliberate creation. And if you keep going, you'll reach the point where your new mind becomes your new life. Finally, Chapter 14, Demonstrating and Being Transparent, Living Your New Reality. In this final chapter, you're invited to go beyond meditation, to go beyond rehearsing, and begin living the transformation you've created. You've observed and broken the old self. You've reconditioned your mind and body to a new future. Now it's time to demonstrate it in real life, not just in thought, but in action, presence, and being. Use the emotion of your new reality to fuel the outcome you wish to create. As Dr. Joe says, knowledge is for the mind, but experience is for the body. The question now becomes, can you walk through your day as the new you? Can you stay conscious in your actions, intentional in your thoughts, and elevated in your emotions, even when the world challenges you? This is what Dr. Dispenza calls living transparently. It means living in a way that your inner reality matches your outer expression, where who you are on the inside shines through with authenticity, presence, and power. Life will test you. That's not a flaw in the process. It's part of it. People, situations, and unexpected events may try to trigger your old emotions. But these moments aren't setbacks. They're opportunities to prove to yourself that you've changed. Remember, you are only limited by the questions you ask, the knowledge you embrace, and your ability to keep an open mind and heart. When you encounter a challenge, ask, am I reacting as my old self or responding as my new self? Can I stay centered, open, and elevated, even now? Every time you succeed in responding differently, you're wiring your brain and body into alignment with your future. You're teaching the universe that you're no longer living by the old personality. You're embodying the new. True transformation isn't something you keep to yourself. When you live as your new self, joyful, present, empowered, you inspire others to believe they can do the same. This is what it means to be the living example. You don't need to convince anyone with words. Your energy, your behavior, and your results will speak louder than anything you say. And if you stay consistent, if you keep practicing, keep refining, keep surrendering, you'll find that your outer life begins to reflect the new inner state you've worked so hard to create. You'll begin to see synchronicities, healing, opportunities, abundance, love, not by chasing them, but by becoming the version of you who naturally attracts them. This chapter is not just a conclusion, it's a beginning. You've gone from survival to creation, from memorized emotions to liberated energy, from repeating your past to consciously designing your future. You've moved from thinking to doing to being, and now you are the work. You are the example. You are the living proof that it's possible to break the habit of being yourself, awaken the divine intelligence expressing through you, and evolve into the conscious creator of your reality. So there you have it, a comprehensive summary of Dr. Joe Dispenza's Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. As you free yourself from the programs of the past, you become the author of your own future. You stop living as a memory and begin living as a vision, one that is no longer dictated by circumstances but created by consciousness. As Dr. Joe states, the greatest habit you will break is the habit of being yourself, and the greatest habit you will ever create is the practice of expressing the divine through you. That is when you inhabit your true nature and identity. It is to inhabit self. Dr. Joe Dispenza has shown us that we're not prisoners of our genes, our past, or our habits. We are creators. With every thought we think, every emotion we feel, and every decision we make, we are either reinforcing the old self or giving life to the new. Breaking the habit of being yourself means becoming conscious of who you've been, surrendering the emotional ties to your past, and intentionally stepping into the unknown with trust, purpose, and an open heart. It's not merely about changing your thoughts, it's about changing your state of being, your energy, and ultimately, your identity. By entering the present moment, surrendering to the unknown, and aligning your thoughts with elevated emotions, you step into the quantum field, where your future is no longer something you chase, but something you attract by becoming it. This book isn't just about breaking habits, it's about breaking free. Free from limitation, free from fear, free from the illusion that who you were is who you have to remain. So if you're ready to live as your future self, not someday, but starting now, then let this be your daily practice. Think greater than your environment, feel greater than your past, and act greater than your old habits, because the moment you do, you stop being your old self, and you begin the journey of becoming someone greater. Trust in the power of your consciousness to help you heal, evolve, and express the miracle that you already are. Keep living consciously, keep creating from the heart, and keep becoming your highest self. Thank you for tuning in to Wisdom Matrix 1111. Please help support the channel by hitting the subscribe button and liking the video. Until next time, peace.